Okay, boys, we got ourselves a replay analysis. This is a 1.7K Storm Spiritu. We have ourselves a hello, BSJ. I've been playing Dota on autopilot all of these years, but I want to start paying attention. Taking the blue pill, I see. Or is it the red pill? I can't remember.
Banana slam jam.
I started to concentrate on small objectives like trying not to die a lot or getting bottle early when playing mid. I decided not to wait for a perfect game to show you and just send you my last one. Apologies in advance for the cringe. I would be thankful if you could tell me what I could do differently and what I should pay attention to in my future games. Thank you, sir. Or he said thank you, and I was thinking, sir. So I will tell you right at the start of this replay that my advice to all people below 4K, that's about the threshold, it's not perfect, is that the way to learn when to gank is to farm faster. Because a lot of times, the reason why it's tough to find space to gank is when the opponent is farming faster than you, or you're not farming fast enough, it feels like there's always farm to get. And you feel like you're making a choice at all times. It's kind of yanking you at both sides. And so if you learn to farm faster, you learn to clear waves faster, you learn to be more efficient, you're going to naturally find openings where there's either not enough creeps to farm, or there's like something better to do than actually farm. So I'm just letting you know that that decision is usually fixed by virtue of farming faster, and we're going to focus on your efficiency of farming. And all the times I talk about your decision of ganking or farming or whatever you're doing, it's to maximize that first like 10 minutes of the game. Because that 10 minutes is so important. And it goes a long ways, and it carries over into a lot of stages of the game. Okay. So I do believe you bought too many starting items. You're against what I call a lane griefer, okay? What a lane griefer means is that the guy doesn't take your tower, he doesn't scale as well as you do, he doesn't gank, and he makes it so his sole purpose in life is to ruin yours, okay? There's a reason why a lot of these heroes aren't often seen as much in my bracket, because most of them are kind of cheesy and not actual mids. Heroes like OD are also lane griefers, but the difference between OD that makes him so broken is he buys Meteor Hammer and your tower also dies. But yeah, Silencer fits this description. So whenever you're against these type of heroes, Viper, Silencer, Necro, whenever you're against these heroes, the whole purpose of, or your entire job is to farm. It is to survive. You don't try to beat the guy. You play for your power spikes whenever you get them, and then you look to gank this guy. Like with Storm Spirit, you're playing incredibly conservatively, purely for farm. I was saying parm. Until you get level 6, and then you can look to kill this guy with like a +1. That's pretty much the game plan you can construct right away. And part of farming is sustaining. I played Lesh against Lina, and I knew that this matchup sucks, Lesh versus Lina. Similar idea. Lina is also a lane griefer in the sense that she wins most of her lanes, and if you are against her as a hero that's like a squishy ranged, you usually lose. So I started bare minimum items and rushed bottle, knowing that I was going to spend a lot of mana to push out the wave. And what that does is it secures you a lot of early CS, and you're using your mana to push out the wave. And the more you push out the wave, the less time you spend interacting with Silencer. I want you to think that every second that you're here in the creep wave farming is another second that he can hit you, okay? So, like, if you watch the way I play the Lesh game, I pretty much nuke the wave right away, I right-click it right away, I'm just minimizing the amount of time that I'm spending near this guy, right? So first and foremost, very basic tip. If you watch Storm Spirits, what they will do is they will walk up to the creep wave the second one of the enemy creeps is about to drop below 120 HP. I believe that's how much this does. Yes. And they will Remnant. And they will use their mana. I want you to think that every single second you are sitting at a full mana, you are wasting 1.7 mana per second. Every single second, you're wasting it. So we've been in this lane for about 30 seconds so far. You've already wasted like 55 mana, 50 mana. And you would almost have full mana again, just by virtue of spamming your Q. So, fundamentals. Fundamentals. We're going to keep going. Use your remnants, man. I want you to watch one Storm Spirit game that somebody higher MMR has played and watch how often they use Remnant. So this lane's a lot of defensive aggro and a lot of Remnant usage to CS. So your Remnant should be purely focused on CSing. The timing in which you use Remnants is all about when the enemy creeps are low. That's all it is. So watch the lane, and I want you to see like when the enemy creeps are supposed to die to your Remnants. Any hero that has a nuke, the most efficient form of nuking is to nuke a creep and the opponent at the same time. Any hero that can do that is generally considered a very strong laner. And the reason why Lina is really good against ranged heroes is because she has a line-based nuke that can often hit a creep and the enemy hero. While Storm tends to struggle against ranged heroes because his nuke is point-blank range and often cannot be used against ranged heroes. So if I tell you the optimal way to use your spells is to get creeps and nuke the opponent, then if you're a hero that can't nuke the opponent, then obviously at that point it would be used to get creeps. Those are the only two options. You know, if you're not hitting the opponent or getting the last hit on a creep, your nuke is pretty much pointless. I actually don't, maybe there's something I'm missing, but I don't think there's anything else you would ever use a nuke for. So, you know, you can watch. That Remnant did not kill a creep. That Remnant did not kill a creep. Okay. So that was the first time all lane I was happy with what you did. The Silencer went to pick up the rune, and you Remnanted the wave and left. That was the first time I was happy. Okay? So if I tell you that you're in a lane that's purely about farming, I think you can kind of gear up for that as Storm Spirit most of the time. There are certainly lanes where you take your pull at level 3, and your goal is to look for this timing where you kill the guy because you pull him in, or do a lot of damage to him, establish control of the lane. But the fact is, we don't need to learn how to kill people until we learned how to actually use our spells effectively and farm fast, okay? So I want you to drop the notion of ever killing people in your bracket. The thing is, in my bracket, we have to kill people because if nobody's pressured, if nobody's done anything to, then we all farm really efficiently. You know, everyone farms really fast. In your bracket, if you completely ignore the opponent mid and farm, you will farm faster than him because he's also 1.7k and he is not doing these things, okay? So you don't actually have to worry about pressuring him yet. You have to worry about getting as much farm for your own hero as possible and playing around your own power spikes. Learning to pressure opponents and looking to beat their spikes and all that kind of shit, we can worry about later. You know, we'll worry about when you're like 3k, maybe 4k. But at your bracket, we need you to maximize. So you're going to push in this wave. In the mid lane, the best way to maximize is the small camp. So we're going to combine minimal interaction with any hero that's ranged. Let's just assume you play Storm Spirit a bunch. I recommend you spam him moving forward. At least for the next replay, I'd like to see another Storm, and I want to see the difference. Okay, remind me that you're the Storm guy. It's hard to keep track of everybody. So your idea is to minimize interaction, which is a lot of defensive creep aggro in the lane, which pulls the creeps into your Remnant. Okay, that's why you do it. Because the idea is you don't want to walk as very close to the opponent. You want to lay the Remnant from as far away as possible. And the best way to do that is to creep aggro the creeps towards you. Okay? So if you can practice learning defensive creep aggro, one thing at a time ideally, but you know, up to you on which order you want to do it. Defensive aggro, remnanting for last hits, pushing in the wave as much as possible, and then utilizing the small camp. So right now is the perfect moment where you clear a wave, you know you're in farm mode. I have told you that for the next like 50 games, you are in farm mode. In a lot of games, you'll have to decide that. But I'm telling you, at a 1k level, you can just assume you are in farm mode if you're going to pick a good farming mid, you know? If you're going to pick, like, I don't know, I'm not going to worry about it. If you're picking a hero that can farm jungle, you are in farm mode, okay? So you push in this lane, you're going to immediately run to your own small camp. No questions, no hesitation. Anything else, complete waste of time. You do run to your small camp. Very good. You clear it. You walk back to lane. Okay. You're going to use your resources to clear the creeps. Okay. defensive aggro. This is actually pretty good, you know? This is actually pretty good. Go over to the small camp again. No, none of this. Small camp stack. Small camp stack. So the way you know the difference is by making sure you farm the small camp every minute. Okay? So if for some reason the lane wasn't in a good spot at 320, then right now you'd probably try to lane. If the lane's in a spot where you're farming it at 320, then you're going to go stack it at 350, okay? And the biggest thing to note is that if you're the strong guy in the lane, then you're going to have to bank on the fact that you have to go pick up the runes before you clear this wave, okay? The one that comes at the time the runes meet. You have to assume to get the rune first. It's the same idea when I tell carries that when they're behind, they're going to jungle and then come back to the lane to defend their tower. Or when they're ahead, they're going to push in the lane and go farm jungle. In the mid lane, it's the exact same thing, except it comes down to runes. If you're stronger than the other guy, you're going to push out the lane and go pick up the rune. If you're weaker than the other guy, you're going to go pick up the rune and catch the wave underneath your tower. And if you're a hero that farms small camp, which most heroes do, you stack it before you go there. So little things to focus on that are going to really boost like an extra 100 GPM early game. It'll add up a lot. You'll hit your timings just a bit sooner. But I would say you're on the right track. You're doing a pretty good job of minimizing interaction with this guy. I actually think you're doing quite a good job.
You've just achieved first blood. Thanks and have fun.
So this is a moment I never want you to find yourself in. I need you to trust your gut. Okay? I need you to gain... You said you just started thinking. You've been on autopilot for a really long time. So I need you to start thinking. Okay? At where in the lane have you felt comfortable walking up? You know? When have you felt like, hey, this is good for me to go into lane, push it out, and leave? You're clearly under like a similar impression that I am, that you're supposed to like walk up to the lane, push it, and leave. I've noticed that. Like you seem to be on that right mindset. So now we need to prevent you from sitting here, holding your dick while he farms the creep wave. Okay? So what you're doing here is acknowledging that he is stronger than you. You may say, BSJ, he's level 6 and the silencer's level 5. What I'm saying by stronger is if there's no gank, if there's no all-in kill potential, then he will harass you better than you harass him. Okay? Most of the reason why it comes down to this as Storm Spirit is because to push the creep wave and harass people, you have to be literally on top of them. Okay? While a hero like Silencer, they can just poke you with their spells from long range. So unless you all-out commit to go on this guy, he will out-harass you. So let's rewind real quick. I want you to get in the habit of noticing what factors lead the lane to be where it is. So like right now, your catapult's on their hill. You know at this exact moment, because you have a catapult on his hill, it applies if you also just had any creep that didn't go into their tower range, that his creeps are going to stop on this catapult. What's going to happen is the creeps stop on the catapult, your creeps come here, and then they're going to meet over here. That's going to happen anytime he has a creep in front of his tower. I want you to note that. You're starting to notice signs of things that tell you the lane is going to be here. And then you combine that knowledge with where do you think you can enter the lane? And the thing is, a lot of people kind of do this correctly. You're not entering the lane, which I agree with. I don't think you should enter the lane. But instead of sitting here holding your dick until you can enter the lane, that was the time you were supposed to go do something else. So in this case, 544, I think the perfect play right now was to go stack the hard camp, pick up the top rune if it's there, farm the stack hard camp unless your tower's dying or something, pick up the bounty rune, go to the small camp, and come back to lane. And the only thing that would change that is if your tower is taking a lot of damage or you're missing a lot of creeps underneath your tower. So the whole time that you're playing outside a lane, all you care about is if he's pushing your tower or not. And if the lane's turning into a spot that is safe enough for you to enter. So in every matchup you play, I want you to draw an arbitrary line, whatever you think it is. Is it right here? Is it right here? Is it right here? You know, this is you're gonna be gauging matchups, okay? And there's gonna be some line where you think once the creeps cross that, I feel like it is efficient for me to farm this creep wave. Okay? So once they cross that line, you can come return to the lane. But until then, you jungle it up, my friend. No more holding your dick while the guy sits over here doing this. No dick holding here. That's done off stream. So, like, notice how the lane got pushed into you. So, during the time between, let's see. In this game, just like approximately, the lane gets pushed into you at 6:14. So, it was about 30 seconds between the time you knew it was going to be on his hill and the time that it was going to be in a place for you to farm it. So, you had about 30 seconds. That makes sense. I said pick up top rune, go to this camp and farm it, pick up bounty. You'd probably be done around 6:20, give or take. Sounds about right. Invisibility. Okay. Push out the lane and farm small camp. Go stack hard camp. This is the exact same thing as before, my friend. This is the exact same thing. You are learning the same lesson over again. I hope you see it this time. Obviously, you can't fix it in hindsight. Notice how the lane's not in a spot that you'd ideally want to farm it. It would have been the perfect opportunity to stack the camp. Instead, you walk back and hold your dick a little bit. Go and hold that dick, baby. Let's fucking go. Sit here. Notice how 70% of the time you're not actually hitting a creep. So I want you to remember that there's going to be that rule every single time you're debating going back into the lane. And notice how right there, I actually don't mind your play. And because in that case, the only exception to this is when you're going to kill the guy. Or when you're going to attempt to, like, aggress. Okay? So if you think it's a really good opportunity for you to, like, force a trade like you did there, go for it. What I'm saying is don't enter lane and just, like, have a truce with the guy in a situation where he's stronger than you. You know what I mean? That's what we're avoiding. Haste. Get a haste rune. Yeah, absolutely. Good gank. You gonna go back to lane? Okay. And so every time you enter lane, you just need to ask yourself, how much farm are you getting? How much farm are you restricting from the opponent? And how many resources did it take to get that farm? Okay? Meaning health and mana. That's what I mean by resources. And then you compare that to a hard camp. Because that was your other option here. So right here, you killed the small camp. And you had the choice between going here or going here. Right? So hard camp probably takes 2 remnants, probably like 100 HP. And it's going to give you like 120 gold and like 120 XP. So that's about 3 lane creeps that it's going to give you. Okay? So this is 3 lane creeps. And you used 1 remnant and you took 400 damage. So then it just comes down to, I'm not going to tell you which one's right or wrong in all these circumstances. I want you to gauge, would you rather spend 200 health and 200 mana, or 400 HP and 80 mana? You know, that's up to you. That's just how you kind of learn. Okay? Looked for a good time to counterplay. I don't mind that gank. That was pretty good. He denied the double damage. Okay, so after he denies the double damage, I'm acknowledging that I can't do anything until I go bid ace, okay? There's like this point in mid where there's like a threshold where you've like run out of resources. Whether you invested a bunch in a kill, whether or not you got harassed a bunch and somebody stole your rune. The second that happens, I want you to recognize at this moment, or at least in the future, try to recognize this moment, that you did not have enough resources to do anything. Okay, like you can't kill people, you're not super survivable, you're not pushing towers. So what that means is you need to farm your way back to base as reasonably as possible. Just farm back to base. That was in my Brile video, 5 things pro mid laners do that you don't. I released it like a week ago. When you're in a moment like this, you should immediately recognize, or at least as close to immediately as possible, like that's your goal. When I say should, I mean that's your goal. That I need to go to base. But I want you to then spend all of your mana getting back to base by farming. You know, I'm not telling you to zip back to base as Storm Spirit. I'm telling you to spend all the resources you have farming and make your way back to base. So in this case, I'd probably like kill this camp, pick up the bounty, maybe kill this camp, and then go back to base. You also don't... You want the base returning to be approximately what your TP cooldown is. So, like, as close to possible to that. So, like, your TP right now is 56 seconds. Ideally, you'd be back in base around 13:20. Not always possible. Just something to keep in mind as a goal. But notice how you, like, go for, like, a posture aggressively. Holy shit! The mother load. We don't have to go to base at all! Holy shit. Okay. I think that speaks poorly of you as a mid laner that you never went to your big camp and picked up bounty runes. I guess there's some benefit to being low skill sometimes. Okay, so you picked up an arcane. That was way too crazy of a zip. Okay, okay. Worked out. It's not crazy in the sense, like, you didn't have to do it that early, but it's fine. TP'd bottom. Or you didn't TP bottom, you ganked bottom. Still have an arcane rune going. These guys are kind of crazy. Okay. Decided to AFK and die. Looks like you just didn't really know how much damage they were going to do to you. Shit happens. Bronze tier, Storm Spirit. It's okay. Nothing wrong with that, my friend. Just a little bit of a misplay. You walked out of base. I actually like that a lot. Okay, you're going to check rune because there's 16 minutes. Good, okay. And take the tower? Wow. Okay. You got your Orchid coming. You got a rune. Playing on a ward. All these things are good to me. Doesn't look like anything happened. I think you've got some reasonable things going for you here. These are pretty good decision making. Looking for this guy with an invis rune. You're assuming he went to the hard camp. Oh, that's a drow. Okay. Oh, gosh. Okay. Okay. Dude, that's fucking space. Let's fucking go. Reset. Forced all their spells. Okay. So, if you ever feel really strong, which in this case, you should absolutely feel really strong, and that's because you forced a bunch of ultimates, okay? First off, as a Storm, I want you to think what kills you. So, I would say the main way they kill you is global, you know? So, the second that you recognize that they can't really kill you easily, for the time being, is when you want to step up the aggression. And remember what I said about, like, pushing lanes in the early first 6 minutes or so? It's the same concept 18 minutes in. It just comes down to whether or not you think you'll die pushing the lane. So, like, if you were scared of their ultimates right now, you'd be wanting to jungle and potentially join a fight with your team. But since this silencer used his ultimate, and you see the drow, there's like no other way they kill you is these two silences, then you should kill this creep wave before you leave. So what I want you to think as a tangible thing here is whenever you're looking to gank, whatever lane you're leaving behind, consider whether or not you can push it, okay? Just ask yourself, do I think I can push this? That's like a really important question, because this extra little bit of farm that you're missing makes this gank look really forced. It makes the map worse, and it's something that you can absolutely focus on. Every time you're thinking, like, I just want you to think this trigger. When I leave this lane, could I farm this creep wave? Okay? And maybe you'll misgauge it sometimes, whatever. But this is what makes this look forced right here. This right here makes this play look forced. It's very inefficient. And if your teammate's pushing a wave like this, please, for the love of God, recognize the importance of information in the Dota game. Please, for the love of God. Not only is it that you guys are holding each other's hands while farming, and there's actual farm for you to get, if you're making a move towards people, farm the jungle next to them. Don't show in lane next to them. It's literally twice as much information for the opponent, half as much efficiency for your team, and it actually, yeah, it just hurts you. It benefits the opponent team and it hurts you. Please don't fucking do this. Please do not see this and walk in a lane. This is like a cardinal sin of Dota. You know, I was raised Catholic. I'm no longer really Catholic. But if Dota was Catholicism and there was cardinal sins, showing in lane when you already have a teammate that's doing it, and there's farm right here, is one of them. Okay? That would absolutely be one of them. Alright? This is terrible. It hurts me emotionally. I did this earlier. I really need to make a video on it. BSJ, you have absolutely no fucking excuse. You are so lazy. I needed to hear that, BSJ. Thank you. Order of objectives. 1, 2, 3, or 4. These are interchangeable. 3, 4. Okay, 3, 4. Second Roche is 5. Or invading triangle. Those are 5. This tower is 6. This tower is 7. You are 1.7k MMR. I gave you the order of objectives. This is... Everything in Dota has a default and a bunch of things that could potentially change the default. At your bracket, you have to play optimally to all of the defaults. Because if you don't understand the defaults, then you're just going to not be efficient and all that kind of shit. And you're not going to understand the game from the right angle. So let me repeat that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 or second Roche is 5. 6, 7. So if you are doing anything in the game that breaks that order, just fucking stop. That's it. What I am saying here, guys, is do not put 4 heroes holding their dick in the bottom lane before Roche has been taken. Okay? And when I say a strong exception, just to clarify, if you're the guy that single-handedly takes this tower, like a support Jakiro or an OD with a Meteor Hammer, you are very welcome to be here. Okay? You are incredibly welcome to be here. Totally fine if you think you can, like, poke down the tower. Do not be the guy that's missing farm, that's not a tower pusher, and sitting here. Okay? So the biggest thing I want to emphasize to end this replay analysis is that do not 4-man anything when there are creeps like this. Okay? There cannot be creeps right behind you, and you're just 4-manning a tower. That is the definition of inefficient. Thanks for watching, buddy. I hope you had a lot of things to work on in the early game. Went a little bit longer than I thought I would, but that's okay. Thanks for signing up.